Comic Book Savant, episode 396. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, we're going to be doing a spoiler review of Iron Fist Season 2, the Marvel Netflix series. But before we get into that, as always, I want to let you guys know right up front that this is a spoiler-filled review. If you want to see a non-spoiler review, you can head over to youtube.com/Comic Book Savant, and I will have a video non-spoiler review for Season 2 over there on the YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out and you don't want to be spoiled because you haven't had a chance to see it yet, you want to know kind of my thoughts or my opinions on it, check that out. Again, youtube.com/Comic Book Savant. So that it is your last warning on being spoiled. Before I get into all that, as always, I'd like to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comic Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. It's just a great place to go if you're looking for more comic book related material and podcasts to listen to and to consume. It's a one-stop shop that you can go to. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. Literally, there are hundreds of different podcasts listed there. If you want publisher-only related shows, they have those. They have character-focused shows, team-related shows. So you can pretty much find any kind of genre or niche within comic books on the network. There's so many different podcasts out there, and it's kind of hard to find your way and sort through it all. That's like a one-stop shop where you have literally hundreds to kind of pick and choose from. You could try a handful at a time, and if some stick, keep listening to them and subscribe to them and follow them. And then other ones, you can try it. If you don't like it, you can always put it down and try another one. You have a limitless resource there of great content to pull from. So definitely, if you have a moment, check that out. And as always, I'd like to talk about the sponsor for this episode, which is InStockTrades.com. Just one of the best places you can go online when you're looking for collected editions, be it omnibus, manga, deluxe single issue editions, like when he did Action Comics 1000 recently, bound single issues that they do, like special format printings. In-stock trades have all that and then more. They have discounts ranging from 35%, 42% up to 50% off with their deals of the week. They're updated, I think, every Tuesday afternoon, and they highlight a handful of books where they will discount up to 50% off. Really great deals. If you're a U.S. customer and you place an order $50 or more, you get free shipping within the U.S., which is also a great additional bonus. Also, if you're an international customer, you can still take a part of all the great savings, and they have some of the most competitive international shipping rates around, so you can still save a ton of money on books as well. So don't let the distance discourage you in that extra little bonus there, because you can still save quite a bit of money, and they ship everywhere in the world. So that's definitely a great thing there for if you're in the States or not, to check out this service. And if you check them out and you like the service based on my recommendation, drop them a line and definitely let them know that you heard about them here on the Comic Book Savant podcast. That always helps me a great deal, because they know that I'm sending you guys over to them. So it always just helps and allows me to do more things like giveaways and such like that to you listeners. So with all that being said, again, final warning, this is a spoiler filled episode for Iron Fist Season 2. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I can't talk this morning, click away now. Check out the video review on youtube.com/Comic Book Savant. And then after you watch Season 2, you can come back and listen to everything here. Final warning. But if you guys have not heard, I did a review. I pretty much reviewed, just to kind of set the background here, I pretty much review all the Marvel Netflix series. I keep up with them, and I pretty much at this point do the spoiler reviews here on the podcast, and I do non-spoiler reviews on the YouTube channel. I start breaking it up like that just to give people context, because even if you've already watched it and you want to recommend it out to friends, you have a video there. If you go over to the YouTube channel that you can share out to friends, if you're trying to sell them on it and you want to direct them to a video, I do it. Like I said, I do a quick non-spoiler review there, and kind of highlighting and giving some of the higher points on what kind of person you are, like if it would appeal to you or not. So that's something I've been doing since I started up the YouTube channel over the past year, to kind of do that, to because a lot of us as comic book fans always want to sell different shows, but I guess my purpose in this episode is to sell you guys, because I wasn't very high on Iron Fist season 1. I think by far it had been the worst Marvel Netflix series to date out of all the shows they've rolled out, and it was a big disappointment. So we're coming back. A lot of news and stuff came out after the first season. It was very negative. I probably gave it a little bit higher review than some other people. It really got panned critically across the board, but I'm here to say just off the top that they made some great improvements. They got a new showrunner for the show. Scott Buck was the showrunner for season 1. And, I don't ever like to talk negative about anyone, but he just didn't do a great job. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about Scott Buck, because he ran the first season. Most people didn't want to see a season 2 of Iron Fist at all. Like, it did that poorly. Netflix doesn't release numbers, but it just was kind of one of those things where you could tell just by how critics, people have been really high on the Netflix series, and this was the first time it kind of took a dip, and you start hearing negative things about it. And he left. They removed him quickly after the first season, and kind of all the bad reviews kind of came down. They quickly removed him, but here's the more curious thing. They moved him right after this, and he was rushed over to shoot and run the season of Inhumans. And I don't know if you guys watched the Inhuman series at all. I talked about it some. I know I did a video review of the season. I actually watched the whole first season of the Inhumans, which I think was like maybe 8 to 10 episodes. I think it was 10 episodes, because I think the first part was a two episode 1 hour premiere, and the last 2, and then it was like 8 regular episodes sandwiched in the middle, or 6 regular episodes sandwiched in the middle. But it wasn't that good. It wasn't horrible, but it was about on par of quality of Iron Fist season 1. It kind of looked cheap. The costuming wasn't that great. It just had the same flaws that you saw through Iron Fist season 1. Luckily for us, they removed him as the showrunner for season 2. Raven Metzner was the showrunner for this season, and it was a welcome change. Again, when we get into Iron Fist season 2, most of the mainstays of the season 1 has returned. We have Finn Jones back as Danny Rand. We have Jessica Henwick back as Colleen Wing. Jessica Stroup back as Joy Meacham. Tom Pelfrey back as Ward Meacham. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Sacha Dhawan back as Davos. As our core characters. We got some new supporting characters that I'm going to talk about a little later. But I have to say, bringing Raven on, the overall each episode was just produced better from top to bottom. The look, the feel of it, everything felt just tighter. They learned from the mistakes from the first season, instead of doing the format that they kind of got famous for with the other Netflix series, where they all were 13 episodes, and we've all talked about it in numerous detail in these previous reviews that I've done, that at times it felt like them staying so locked into that hurt certain shows, because certain shows don't need to be the 13 episodes. They did something different with Defenders. I think with Defenders was like 8 episodes. They did 10 episodes for this season 2, and I felt like that was the smartest move. At the end of the 10 episodes, I felt like I got a complete story with very little to no filler at all. They maximized the amount of time, and it made it seem tighter and kept me invested. Where in other seasons on Netflix, when it being 13 episodes, towards episode 9, 10, you start feeling like you're getting some filler, and you kind of have to push to get through. It can't, it does a rough job keeping you engaged for all 13 episodes. Now, Punisher was a little different. That kept me engaged throughout. Even Jessica Jones season 2 kept me engaged throughout. But the strength of these Netflix shows too, that I could say compared to movies, is that all the Netflix shows have really good and great supporting casts. And this show is no exception. And I kind of leaned on that in my review where I gave it higher marks for the first season, as I felt like the surrounding cast, supporting cast, was very strong for the show. Jessica Stroup is Joy Meacham. I'm going to talk about her later, but I want to focus on people like Tom Pelphrey as Ward Meacham. His character, he waffled back and forth in the first season. If you didn't know if he was good or he's bad, the actor, I don't really remember seeing Tom in anything before this show. But he's one of these guys that he plays such a great, you can love him and you can hate him. He does that extremely well. But I liked in this season, I loved his story arc, and they dedicated a good time where I felt like they wasted time on his story arc during the first season. They really refined just the direction of all the characters. When it comes, just want to say this, he was exceptional he was a very good supporting character for this season, and I think where Raven in the writers' room for this show did a really good job. And Finn Jones is not the best actor. We all kind of know this. He wasn't really. Yes, he came from Game of Thrones, and that was a big thing when they casted him in a role. But he was not one of the main characters on Game of Thrones. He was a very much, a supplementary side character that we saw a little bit. So it's not like he had a lot of screen time and practice. I don't know how much acting he did before Game of Thrones and coming into this. I know when the first season came up, he caught a lot of bad press and flack in reviews and things. But when I saw the interview right before they started filming the show, he had just came off of doing some filming on Game of Thrones, and he only had like 6 weeks to prepare before he went into season 1. Now, since season 1 of Iron Fist, we've had Defenders, where his character was he's improved the more we've seen the character over time. So, season 1 was rough for him, but he had lack of time to prepare. He was a lot better in Defenders. He did a cameo in Luke Cage season 2, which just was released a few months ago. He was really good in that, and I still think to date that was the best portrayal of Danny that I've seen, and the best acting job I've seen him in the character of Danny Rand to date. I don't know who directed the particular episode, but that was kind of the best we had seen him. And maybe they need to get that director to direct him in Iron Fist season 3 when that comes out. I'll do some research on that, because whoever directed him or whoever wrote that episode really nailed the character, and I felt like that was the best I've seen Finn as Danny in that cameo episode on Luke Cage season 2. But they knew that was an issue. So though Danny Rand and Finn Jones is the title character for the show, they very much so played to knew that maybe that's the show's weakness, him being the title character. So they kind of hid that by, though he's the central character, he wasn't the focal point of every storyline and everything that was going on in the show. Colleen, Wayne, Jessica, which I think was the saving grace of the whole first season for me. She's phenomenal. Also from Game of Thrones as well. She really shines in this show, and they kept developing her character so well. And I felt like she was one of the best things in this season by far, as far as performances. And it's so hard for me saying that, because I don't know if any of you guys even watched the first season. I hope my review swayed you to some way to at least check it out. But I will be the first to admit, it's hard to get through. It was hard for me to get through. They focused on like a lot of corporate stuff and family drama, and it was a tough watch. It was probably the toughest watch I've had out of all the Marvel Netflix shows by far. It was hard to get through. I had to like force myself to get through it. Having that background, I think because I got through and I watched every episode of the first season, it made me appreciate how good this season has been. And I'm a huge TV fan through the years, and, we're still relatively new to this whole concept of having all these superhero shows through Netflix, through, network television, through it all. And I have to say, in all of that, this show has had the biggest turnaround from being a show that I did not want to see a season 2 for to becoming one of the top Marvel Netflix shows in just the turn of one season. That's how drastic and dramatic the change has been in this show from season 1 to season 2. Everybody's game stepped up. Like I said, Tom Pelphrey is amazing. Sacha Dhawan as Davos, which I didn't know. Like, they set the things up in the very last episode of season 1 about that you knew he was going to kind of come back and come back in season 2 and kind of be a foil for Dany. And I didn't know if he could really sell it because he's kind of smaller in stature. Even seeing their history, you just didn't know how that was going to fit together. Excuse me. But they really did a great job. And, I mean, it was kind of even kind of Killmongerish how, like, they made him such a full-bodied and realized character, which they do such a great job over on the Marvel Netflix series because you have 10 to 13 hours to flesh out these characters. Plus, Davos was a major character in season 1. So then you have that to pull from, and they really made his character whole. You really saw his motivations and how he kind of had twisted. He was sympathetic because you saw the abuse he suffered, especially from his mom, and how he was pushed so hard to be the Iron Fist that would have twisted him in a way it did for him to go down a bad path. So he was sympathetic to a way. You could see how he went the way he went. So I really dug that because and Sacha Dhawan, like, he killed it. I mean, he really did. Like, when he was on screen, and especially at the points after he acquired the Iron Fist, and he had two the red glowing Iron Fist, like, he was frightening on screen, that's what you want in a villain. You want to be like, this guy is dangerous, and he sold it so well. Now, one thing I would be remiss if I did not mention is Alice Eve as Mary Walker, a.k.a. Typhoid Mary. We did not get to see her in the full Typhoid Mary get up, but you didn't need to. And Alice Eve, the last time I saw her in anything that I could remember was Star Trek Beyond. And so when I heard she was cast as Mary Walker, I don't know much about Typhoid Mary. I a lot of the Frank Miller in that time, like in the 80s, of Daredevil, I haven't read. I've seen her in covers. I might have read stuff here, tidbits here and there, but I don't know her character at all. So this was very much an educational lesson for me of the character. And Alice Eve, like, put it out there. Because I always thought, she's a pretty, actress. I've seen her kind of in, like, cookie-cutter kind of movies and never really saw her play, like, and I knew Typhoid Mary is, like, a physical, like, character. And I was just like, how is this actress is really going to do it? I never really seen her do any kind of physical, like, action stunt work. Man, with the split personality thing, and wow. Man, that, like, all I can say is, like, her performance in this season alone is worth watching the 10 episodes. If you don't see anything else from this, just watch Alice Eve bring Mary Walker to life. It is funny. It is frightening. it is insane. And where they leave the character at the end of the season to where they can take her and where Alice shows up again, I don't know if it's going to be in Daredevil. I don't know if it's going to be in Iron Fist. I don't know, but I'm scared as hell of that woman. That's the kind of performance she did on this show. She scared the bejesus out of me. Like, if I saw her in the street, if I saw Walker in the street, I'm running. That chick was off the hook. And then the compliment of Mary, the other side of her personality, being so nice and warming, and how she would transition, the triggers would trigger her, man, and how she would just change on a drop of a dime. I mean, it put hairs up on my arm, man. Like, that's one of the most phenomenal performances I've seen on this level, man. Like, again, it's worth the price of admission just to watch her bring that character to life. Is insane. Then for some of the other supporting characters, we had Christine Toy Johnson as Miss Yang. She was very pivotal in the season, and I see her being very pivotal going forward in the series. We had Simone Missick, Missy Knight. She came over, and she had a bigger part in this season than I thought, but it was good because her, with the whole Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, the sisters of the Dragon, and they had a great cameo episode in Luke Cage season 2, and their chemistry is so great. I want to see that more. Probably, I could kind of dig them doing maybe like they did with Defenders, not maybe even 8 episodes, maybe like a 6 episode Sisters of the Dragon spinoff that they could do, or play on it more. And they might not do it because they kind of need them to kind of, again, take a lot of focus off of Danny, because he's kind of the weakest part in his own show, I hate to say. But it was great to see her again. And like I said, I was surprised how she was pretty much on the half of the season, which was great because I love Simone Missick as Misty Knight. Again, this is a side of the Marvel Universe as a kid. I was born in 75, but I really grew up in the 80s, so I missed these characters' heydays in the mid to late 70s and the early 80s. And when I really start getting the comic books heavy, when I was of an age where I was 8 or 9, 10, where I was really reading comics heavy, it was all about New Teen Titans for DC, New Mutants for DC, Spider-Man. Those books were kind of were the bigger books. And again, I always tell the story how my older cousins got me into comics, and they had Iron Fist and Power Man and Iron Fist comic books, but they just looked corny. Even at that time, they were kind of felt outdated and out of place. So I read them very rarely. So I'm learning about these characters through these series, and I'm glad now that I have exposure to them because they're just great characters, and I'm just so into this world. And as a comic book fan, with all the big movies, most of those storylines and characters I'm familiar with because I've read them because they're the top echelon characters. That's what I love about these Marvel Netflix series. They've taken lesser known characters of the Marvel Universe and really shine a spotlight on them and are making me fall in love with these characters. I'm just as much attached to these characters in this Netflix universe that I am in the ones in the motion pictures, even more so because we have a chance to spend more time with them in the show. Again, so Alice Eve is phenomenal. Sacha Dhawan as Davos is, like I said, he was just very menacing and frightening, just the right balance. And that's the biggest thing that I take away from season 2 of Iron Fist is that they brought the show into balance. I felt like season 1 was just a hot mess and was all over the place. And they really brought the show in the center. They handled all the storylines extremely well. Oh, another person that I wanted to bring in, she was a great supporting character, and I hope we see more of her in the future. Natalie Smith as Bethany, she played a huge part in the Ward Meacham storyline. Her and Tom Pelphrey had really good chemistry. I really thought for a supporting character, she had a very strong presence and effect on him, and when she interacted briefly with all the other characters, I really like to see her kind of around more in the future in Iron Fist. I don't know kind of where they left that, if we'll see her again. I would hope so, because I thought she was really good and she fit really well into this cast of characters. I don't really. I think I've gushed enough about the show. It's not too much more I can really say that I haven't already said. It is a huge improvement. The production as well. The episodes, like I said, the story is so much tighter. I pretty much watched season 2, the 10 episodes in like 2 days. The first day I watched the first like 2.5 episodes. The second sitting I watched the other 7.5 episodes to just knock it out. And like I said, the time just flew by, because I really enjoyed it. It was a pleasant like I said, viewing experience from top to bottom, and just chock filled with great performances, like I said, from top to bottom. Now, I did want to talk about Jessica Stroup. I didn't get it. Like, I understood they were trying to set it up at the end of season 1. Like, she was going to be a part of, and I think this is the one most ineffective thing in the whole season 2, is her story arc. I mean, I understand she was bitter about they kept the information from her about her father in the whole first season, and that was all cool, but I didn't think it should have pushed her to the edge of trying to become a. And it wasn't even. It was a half-hearted attempt to become like a full-fledged villain, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like her performance, and it was sad to say I was happiest when Davos pushed her off the ledge, and I thought she was dead, and I was hoping she was dead, and that's how bad her character just was and played for me in this whole season. Because she seemed extremely cold, callous, like they were trying to sell her as a villain, and then she starts stepping back and seemed like she had second thoughts, and she never fully committed one way, so she kept waffling back and forth, similar to, I felt like, kind of how Ward did in season 1 at times. And I hope maybe they would redeem her character, but I have to be honest, she's my least favorite part of Iron Fist of this season. She's by far my least favorite part of it, and I wouldn't be offended if I didn't see her anymore on the show, to be honest. I literally got joyful when I saw Davos push her over thinking she was dead, and then when they flashed back and they showed like she was just hurt very bad but she was still alive, and I was like, man, that says a lot about her performance and just the character in general, that I have like no care about that character at all. It just doesn't fit in this world, to me. Just not good. So that's the only one negative thing I could say about anything about it. So if I have to rate this on my scale, I would give it a 9.25 out of 10, which is a must watch as far as my TV rating scale. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you guys will as well. It's up there now. It's up there, and I've thoroughly enjoyed. I loved Punisher. I've loved. Luke Cage was interesting to me. I enjoyed season 2, but I didn't think it was as strong as season 1 or the first half of season 1. But it put the character in an interesting place where I'm very hyped for season 3 for that show. I'm so hyped for season 3 of this show, where they leave it. We got Colleen as an Iron Fist. We got Danny with the 2 guns. Like I can't remember the guy from that. The Randall with the 2 guns. They got him sporting that thing and him traveling around the world with Ward, and they're like on this thing trying to find out more information about the legacy of the Iron Fist. The bomb that they dropped at the end, where we saw that Colleen is linked to, if you ever read the Immortal Iron Fist comic book series by Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction, where they talk about the legacy and the lineage of the Iron Fist. And it was a female Iron Fist that was a pirate queen, captain. And you find out that was actually one of Colleen's ancestors. That's just awesome. And another thing I have to talk about too, the special effects, where it was like he used the Iron Fist maybe once or twice all of the first season of this show. they went hog wild with the special effects, and I love how they made it distinct that everyone had their own color. Davos, because of him being angry and having all this built up anger, when his Iron Fist glowed, it was red. Colleen, at the end of the season, when she got the Iron Fist, when hers lit up, it was white. And it was even cool at the very end scene where you see like she started using it as an extension with her katana, and then it would light up, glow white as well. That was freaking awesome. And then Danny at the end with pulling out the two guns and like doing that was so phenomenal. So like I said, I'm hyped for what they do. And I feel like they've really corrected, like I said, I'm looking forward for season 3 of Jessica Jones. I'm looking so forward because it seems like Luke is kind of going to go down a dark path. So season 2 of Luke Cage is looking interesting, and I'm too hyped. All these Iron Fists running around. This is going to be good. I was so shocked by the twist of them actually giving Colleen the Iron Fist, and then we saw when they jumped forward a few months that we saw Danny he had the Iron Fist power back as well. So this is going to be good, man. I'm really excited. They really have me all into this Netflix universe, and we still have. Daredevil, which is going to be by the end of the year, and I think the Punisher season 2 is going to. So we have Daredevil season 3 coming, I think, by the end of the year. I think it's going to be sometime November, December when that drops. I'm assuming Punisher is going to be early next year, but I think Daredevil's already finished shooting, and I think Punisher's already in the can too. So it's just a matter of time for them to drop. But I do know, I think it's supposed to be, they're trying to position Daredevil to kind of combat Aquaman coming out in December. So it might come out that day or around that week that movie drops, around the holiday time in December. So that'll be interesting. But I'm really, like I said, I'm so excited about where everything is going. But that's all I have for you guys for my review. This is like 2 thumbs up on this. Like I said, don't be discouraged from the first season if you watch it or try to watch it. This is such a big improvement. You will have a good time with it. As always, you can follow me on social media. You can follow me over at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Google Plus, everything at Comic Book Savant. Twitter is at Comic Book Savant. Instagram, the same thing as well. Facebook, it is facebook.com/Comic Book Savant. I also have a discussion group there on Facebook as well. But if you go to the Comic Book Savant page on Facebook, I have a link to it, and you just request to join. And then as soon as I see a request, I will approve it and we'll get you in a group. And I just post stuff there and have conversations. Also, if you consider it, you want to help support the show, you can also pledge to my Patreon campaign. It is patreon.com/Comic Book Savant. The Comic Book Savant extra episodes that I was doing for free here now is a reward if you join the Patreon campaign at the $1 tier or above. You get access to the Comic Book Savant extra feed. I still put out an episode of that every week on that feed, so that's how you gain access. And that, like I said, even something as small as $1 goes a long way to help support the show. I need new equipment coming up. I'm trying to hit some of these cons so I can start meeting you guys in person again. There's a lot of things I want to do to expand the show. So if you can support, please do that. If you can't do that as well, I got some fresh gear. I released 2 shirts now, so you have merch you can buy as well too. So so far I just put out 2 designs. I'm going to have more designs coming down the road. So I'll have a link on the website as well to my Teespring store. So I had the 2 designs. One is a throwback of early on, I think maybe a couple of years into the podcast, I did one with the old logo that kind of had the tiki mask with the old logo design on it. It's a black T-shirt with the logo on the back of the shirt because that's what it was originally. So I just kept true to that design and kind of did a retro throwback and brought that back. And I have one new design of the new logo with it on the front, and you can get it in multiple colors. I think I have 5 different colors you can get it in. So if you can support in that way, and if you can't financially help support the show, I totally understand. Just help spread the word, share the episodes, share the link, retweet the links when you see me put them out. All that helps just growing the channel. It's so much more I want to do, so much more I want to do to involve you guys and building up just this positive community. You guys have been just nothing but supportful to me through this adventure, over all these years. And, I'm realizing that now, and I want to, keep growing it out more and more. So it's a lot that I'm trying to do. So again, share whatever you can do to help spreading the word and growing the audience and the community. I always greatly appreciate. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So I just thank you guys for listening. That's all I have for this episode of Comic Book Savant. I will see you guys again next week for another episode. And you guys take care and watch Iron Fist Season 2. You will thank me later. See you next time.